Welcome to this evening's Board of Education meeting here at our School Service Center. Ms. Hutchinson, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Blattner?
Here.
Ms. Hevison?
Here.
Mr. Jerby?
Here.
Ms. Kolovitz?
Here.
Mr. Long?
Here.
Mr. Rutledge?
Here.
Mr. Hanlon is absent.
Mr. Jerby, could you please lead us in the pledge?
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have the public comment sheets for the hearing? Oh, there. Okay. Board, I need a motion and a second to open the public hearing on the FY26 budget.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Jerby,
Second.
second by Mr. Long. Ms. Hutchinson, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Jerby?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Ms. Blattner?
Yes.
Ms. Hevison?
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Ms. Kolovitz?
Yes. We have no one signed up for comment on the public hearing, so Board, I now need a motion and a second to close the public hearing on the FY26 budget.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Rutledge,
Second.
second by Ms. Evison. Ms. Hutchin, could you please again call the roll?
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Ms. Hevison?
Yes.
Ms. Blattner?
Yes.
Mr. Jerby?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Ms. Kolovitz?
Yes. Board members, are there any modifications to the agenda this evening? All right. And then Dr. Schuler, if you could please introduce those being recognized tonight.
Absolutely. Happy to. It's my honor. So I'm going to first call up our two high school principals, Mrs. Campos, Mr. Corntoyer, who are actually going to help us with our recognition this evening. We're pleased to recognize two athletes that had an amazing performance this summer that we want to recognize. I do just want to call out as Mrs. Campos and Corntoyer come up. It's been a busy day for them. Certainly this was the day they welcomed all of the staff back at their buildings and had their kickoff meeting. So I know that they have been running full octave since early in the day, but we appreciate you being here to help us celebrate this evening. So if you guys would mind coming to the podium for our recognition, thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure. AJ, if you want to join me up here, come on up here by me. AJ Giampoli Martinez, in summer games this summer, she actually took first place in state in javelin, and then she also took sixth place in shot put. So she's kind of a two-time state champion, and so we're very proud of her and her hard work that she has done for the summer games.
All right. Could I have Chase Ewald come up, please? Chase also placed first in state at the Special Olympics track meet down at Illinois State. He won the event on his third throw, and he said he knew right when it left his hand that it was a good throw, and he was right. So we're very, very excited to recognize you here tonight, and I should mention that I told the whole staff at our meeting this morning that you were going to be recognized tonight. So Friday at school, you're going to get a lot of congratulations. So just be ready to shake a lot of hands and sign out an autograph or two, okay? All right, congratulations, Chase.
Yeah. So Chase and AJ, we have a tradition. Anytime we recognize students, we're going to ask you if you wouldn't mind just coming up to kind of walk the table so each of our board members can congratulate you individually for your accomplishments. So Chase, just remember, I think the agreement was ice cream first, then rest. Okay.
All right. The next item on our agenda is public comment. We have no one signed up for public comment tonight. So Dr. Schuler, if you could please give your superintendent report.
Absolutely. And I'm actually going to start superintendent report this evening by introducing our new student ambassadors that are going to give their building reports first. So I don't know who, well, let's see which one comes. Looks like Wheaton North is coming up first. So if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium.
Over the summer at Wheaton North, we had a lot of students participate in AP bridge programs and then English learner bridge programs. So these kind of help. I know when I'm confused in the classroom, I kind of find something to like latch onto, and these are helping like the AP students when they're confused, because a lot of AP classes are really hard. They can latch onto like different concepts that they learned over the summer, and then for the English learner students, it's kind of just continuing their learning process, so they don't lose any progress that they might have gained over the school year. Okay. We also had students take geometry credit advancements courses. So students in like Algebra 1 could take that course over the summer, and then they'd be in Algebra 2. I had a friend in pre-calc this past year who had taken this, and we were both in pre-calc A, and he did really well. So kudos to this course. It seems to work really well. And we also had students take the college application seminar class. This helps students with their Common App essays and also just filling out their Common App profiles, which I'm starting to do that now, and that's pretty overwhelming. So this class is definitely super helpful for the 68 students who participated in it. And then
Sorry, do you know if that's a new course, or do you know?
New summer course. I don't think it's new. I don't believe so.
And then we also had students take part in the credit recovery course. So this is if somebody's at risk of not graduating on time. Okay, thank you. They can recover their credits over the summer so they can stay on track.
Okay, so here, I'm gonna adjust this. Okay, over the span of the summer, Wheaton North offered Wheaton North 101, which was a great opportunity for incoming freshmen to learn about Wheaton North itself and meet new classmates as well as teachers. I actually participated in this program when I was a freshman at Wheaton North, and I have to say the experience that I gained from meeting classmates as well as familiarizing myself with the Wheaton North atmosphere was very helpful for the freshman year. And more than 50 students participated in this course. Wheaton North also offered the French 2 Bridge course, which basically got to know the curriculum, and 15 students also got a head start into the new year as well. Okay, as Wheaton North wrapped up summer, we also wrapped up all of the summer camps and the recreational activities. There were over 25 different programs and 62 different summer camps. Middle schoolers were also allowed to join in on the summer camps, whether they were athletic or fine arts. And I actually participated in the cross-country summer camp, and it was a great way to meet new incoming freshmen as well as new teammates who were looking to join cross-country in the fall. And over almost 2,000 people were involved in the camps over the summer as well.
So in addition to Chase, who just came by, we had Miles Manconi also participate in the Special Olympics. He was at regionals and performed in bowling. So first place, another first place for Wheaton North. So congrats to Miles. Oops. And yeah, we just had Chase come by, and he was able to pick up first place at the Special Olympics for track in javelin specifically. So another congratulations to Chase. And yeah, over the summer, we had a ton of different renovations at Wheaton North. So starting with the sidewalk outside of the band room, we were able to get a couple steps in there, which weren't there before. And then the big parking lot at the back of the school was repainted, and new lines and numbers there. In addition to that, we were able to get a new patio near the track and around where the baseball and softball fields are, which looks really nice. And we were able to get the track repainted. So really fresh and nice there as well. And then in the auditorium, we were able to get renovated floors, just making it look a little bit nicer. So yeah. So that is the conclusion of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. And on to South.
Hey, do I?
We'll get yours up in just a second. Perfect. Go.
So this week, actually this past week, we had freshman orientation and freshman and parent orientation this week, and we welcomed over 400 incoming freshmen to Tiger Nation. I actually was there, a part of it. I was one of the senior mentors, and there were over 70 junior and senior mentors combined. And we honestly had a lot of fun that day, the day before and the day after. We made posters to welcome the students in, and we could try to make them a little less like nervous, because we did notice that a lot of them were nervous to talk. But we also had like a Hoko event, so we had like a little dance party, and it felt like a mini Hoko. Kind of invited them into like the thing, and they played a lot of songs. And in the start, like freshmen were like a little, they weren't that excited, but like once the songs came in, you're like feeling it. They were in that. We had a huge mosh pit, guys, huge. I was like, is this Hoko or freshman orientation? But that was a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed it, and I hope the freshmen really enjoyed it too. Parents also had a time too there. They sat in the auditorium. They didn't get to dance, but they get to find out what's going on with their students and what's going to happen in the next 4 years at Tiger Nation. And that's what happened that day. Do I use this? Okay, so for academics, we did have, just like Wheaton North, we did have an AP Bridge course. We had 5 APs that were shown. We had AP Psych, Psychology, we had AP Government and Politics, we had AP Language and Composition, AP US History, and if I'm missing one, oh yeah, AP Human and Geo, thank you. Those 5 courses were offered this year, and we had over 109 students participate this year, which is a really good amount of people. And they were taught by 5 AP teachers. These classes are kind of classes that are very really detailed based in the exam. So having these over the summer brings people like a little bit of confidence, because it's a very nerve-wracking time to take AP classes. So I hope any student who did this had fun. And then we had college application workshops, again, like North. We helped usually first-generation college students, and they receive a kind of like coaching on how to apply, how the Common App works, how their essays are going to happen, just the whole detail of the college applications. We had over 400 hours of teachers' curriculum work. So they fixed their curriculum, maybe they added more things, changed it to be more like the ACT, like help students with the ACT that they take in April for the juniors. They also like kind of brought their curriculum together with different teachers, make it more aligned. And we had over 400 hours, which was really good. And then we had a freshman bridge course. We did math and English. So kids who are just like just need a little help before the school year starts, they took these bridge courses. And we had actually over 40 students participate this year, which was really good.
And then going into extracurriculars, we ran 32 athletic activities and fine arts camps, and I actually had the privilege to run the cross country one at South, and it's just a really great look for incoming freshmen, current team members, and even middle schoolers to get a good look at like our program and a really good glimpse into what we do day to day. And it's just so much fun. We have popsicles, we do long runs. We had the privilege of talking to Nike. They came and spoke to us, and we did a Nike event at Naperville Running Company this past week. And that was just a super great experience for everybody, and including the middle schoolers, to get a really good glimpse into what our program has. 2,086 total Tiger extracurricular registrations, which is just amazing. So we got to see all those faces this summer. And then celebrations, congrats to Ariana for taking first place in state in mini javelin at the summer games. And then we in Warrenville South got 2 new tables built by Shane Dillon and dedicated to them through his Eagle Scout program, and they look amazing. He built them all by himself, and we're just so grateful to have those. And then Daniel Lingo, he was his high school documentary was selected to an All-American High School Film Fest in New York. So he graduated last year, and it was filmed last year, but we thought we'd still give him a little shout out because his documentary will be at a film fest in New York, which is just amazing. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's just real quick kind of reintroductions. You heard updates from them, but just so you make sure we have Yafet, right? Gavin, Emma, Ananya, and Emily, right? And we're missing Cameron. Cameron will be here with us during the year as well from South, but those are your 6 student ambassadors. Couple of things I'm just going to add to it under my report. Huge thank you to Gavin and Emily, who joined us a couple weeks back as we welcomed our new staff to District 200. We had a slightly smaller group of new teachers this year. Smaller for us meant we were a little over 80, I think, new staff. But last year, one of the things that Mr. Biskin introduced to our new staff orientation induction program was actually allowing them to hear directly from some of our students. They reflected on some of the teacher experiences they had in District 200, some of the things that were memorable and have really kind of anchored learning experiences. And I know that that was certainly one of the many things that our new staff pointed out or highlighted as an important part of the induction program. Also, wanted to just recognize, as you get into your agenda tonight, you're going to be accepting some gifts from a number of your different PTAs and organizations. The gifts you're accepting tonight total a little over $82,000. So again, we are so incredibly thankful for all of the organizations that support us within the district. This is the time of year where you're getting a lot of the letters from PTAs recognizing all that they did, and that was great. We actually just came from Westbrook, where we did a ribbon cutting on a new playground over there. I'm connecting those two because the Westbrook PTA, I think, brought to the table like $20,000 that they donated to that playground project to add some pieces in. Absolutely amazing. Super fun to see that a little bit. Earlier this week, actually at the very front end of the week, we did the ribbon cutting here at Whittier on their new playground as well. In that construction space, amazingly, I say amazingly, I wasn't surprised, but it just felt like a lot as it came down. We did hit our substantial completion dates on all of our summer construction work, so that included the launch of the renovation at Monroe, 30 classrooms that we renovated, the launch of the new additions at Monroe and Franklin. Those are obviously not at substantial completion, but they got started. You heard a little bit tonight about Wheaton North and the kind of the outside area, both track around the softball field and parking lot. We did a lot of roofing work at Westbrook. In addition to the playground, we redid all the floors inside of Westbrook. School looks absolutely amazing. Dr. O'Keefe, what am I missing? Thank you. Yeah, so huge thank you to Brian, Kevin, all of our construction partners. I think as you're taking on major construction projects, I would be lying if I said there wasn't a point in the last week where we were a little anxious as we were watching the the details come together on the new classrooms, but it happened. We still have some punch list things that we're working through, but big thank you to the board and the community for supporting that. It's nice to kind of clear the first leg of that construction work, and we know we have 2 big summers still coming up to finish all of the middle schools. I want to just quick shout out, thank you to the Wheaton Police Department. We have incredible relationships with our first responders. The Wheaton Police Department every year gives us a very detailed school safety operation plan. At the beginning of the year, they go to great lengths to make sure we know exactly how they're going to support us as students return to school. You actually may have seen some joint announcements with the police department and our communications department, just highlighting some of what they're doing. They enhance their presence in and around our schools. They encourage their officers, even on patrols, to stop into our schools early in the year to simply introduce, make sure that our community knows that they're there to support. So huge thank you to Van Dillenkoffer, who's the deputy chief who puts this together, as well as PJ, the chief, that does an amazing job in support of our schools. We launched, I mentioned earlier, we welcomed our teachers today at all of our sites, and so I know a huge thank you to our principals that do an amazing job of preparing for this day of learning today as we set the stage for the school year. But we're good. We're ready to go and ready to welcome students on Friday. Our teachers have one more day to really kind of get their classrooms and their spaces ready tomorrow as we prep. But we are, I think, in good shape and ready to go. I'm taking a quick look at my list, and I think that's all that I have.
Great. Lots of exciting things, and thank you again to our student ambassadors for those great reports. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. The items included on the consent agenda for tonight are 1, acceptance of gifts from Lincoln Elementary School PTA, 2, acceptance of gifts from Pleasant Hill Elementary School PTA, 3, acceptance of gift to Wheaton North High School, the Performing Arts Department, 4, approval of resolution approving travel, meal, and lodging expenses, 5, approval of bills payable and payroll, 6, approval of minutes, the July 9, 2025 regular meeting, open and closed, and approval to destroy recordings of closed sessions prior to March 2024 as allowed by law. 7, approval of personnel report to include employment, resignation, retirement, and leave of absence of administrative, certified, classified, and non-union staff. Board, are there any items board members want removed from the consent agenda? Dr. Schuler, do you have any other additional information for the board at this time?
I don't have any additional information.
Board, any questions or comments? All right, then I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Rutledge,
Second.
second by Mr. Long, and Ms. Hutchinson, if you could please call the roll.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Ms. Blattner?
Yes.
Ms. Evison?
Yes.
Mr. Jerpy?
Yes.
Ms. Kulowitz?
Yes. Next up is the facilities approval consent agenda. And the items included in the facilities consent agenda are 1, approval of statements of completion from the Regional Office of Education for Hubbell Middle School, Johnson, Madison, Sandburg, Washington, and Weisberg Elementary Schools, and Wheaton North and Wheaton Warrenville South High Schools. 2, approval of First Amendment to the commercial lease agreement with DuPage Technology Center for the transition program at 100 Bridge Street, Wheaton, Illinois. And 3, approval of capital projects for summer of 2026. Board, are there any items board members want removed from the facilities approval consent agenda? All right, Dr. Schuler, any other informational?
Just one quick comment. Right? You recognize the 3 items. Item 1 is really just recognizing the completed work done this summer as we're occupying those spaces. 2 is recognizing the growth of our transition program. Ms. DeFresco is here. She does an incredible job supporting and working with our staff as we've expanded that space. And we got a huge thank you to the building owner there that's been a great partner with the district as we've expanded space, done a great job. And then item 3 is actually looking ahead to summer 26. That is not the middle school work. Obviously, the middle school projects are separate. This is just your regular Sherman Durgis kind of policy commitment to maintaining your work. So I don't know if Dave, if you have anything you want to add from the facilities chair. There's a new chair, by the way, of the facilities committee. Stepped up, took charge of that meeting. So I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks. Yeah, it's not as much in my wheelhouse as finance, but we're having fun, right, Brian? So just a couple things. There's some big ticket items on there that you'll notice. For Lowell, there's roof. Half of that is this year. The second half is going to be next year. And then there was two significant HVAC projects, one at Whittier and one here at the School Service Center. And the one at Whittier is also going to span 2 years. And just want to bring up, because it was talked about, there's kind of a risk of catastrophic failure here because of old equipment. So the decision was made, let's get that taken care of. If we had a catastrophe, we would, we have reserves and we'd be able to handle it. But to get ahead of it, ideally we would have liked to have done the the Whittier work in one summer, but we broke it apart for that reason because once they inspected it, the high school auditoriums. I know there was one question on the in the preparation, that's lighting and drapery and curtains and kind of in line, we talked about in the committee meeting, in line with a lot of the focus of the middle school work. So, and then as Dr. Schuler said, nothing on that list is for the referendum items. And Sherman Durgis is $7.2 million. And then the playgrounds are on top of that. So we're at, I think $7.9 million roughly. That's the difference. And this is the second to last year of the playgrounds. So after next summer, we will have updated all of the playgrounds. Thanks.
Great. Board members, any other questions or comments? All right, then I need a motion and a second to approve the facilities approval consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Long,
Second.
second by Mr. Rutledge. Ms. Hutchinson, if you could please call the roll.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge. Ms. Blattner.
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Evison,
Yes.
Mr. Jerby.
Yes.
Ms. Colovitz.
Yes. Great. Next up is our policy approval consent agenda. There are 12 revised or new policies for approval to post for public review and comment. Those are 2-260, 5-60, 5-100, 6-235, 7-10, 7-20, 7-60, 7-70, 7-200, 7-250, 7-340, and a new policy 7-255. Board, are there any items that you would like removed from the policy approval consent agenda?
Not removed, but an item for which I've got a question. The item for 6235, access to electronic networks, obviously has some significant additions and change regarding artificial intelligence-enabled tools. And I'm just curious, given the work we've done in the past couple of years in this space, is this going to require substantial rework to any administrative procedures, handbook? Does it conflict with anything, or do we feel this is complementary?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. We did actually talk about that at the HR policy committee. It's complementary. So I think all of the kind of steps listed in there are things that are in place. That obviously is an evolving space when you talk about generative AI and how it applies both to staff work functions, but students as well. So I think it's going to evolve, but no, I think right now we're in a good place with that. Is that, Jason, accurate?
All right, anything else, either Dr. Schuler or board members? All right, then I need a motion and a second to approve the policy approval consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Ebbison,
Second.
second by Mr. Rutledge. Ms. Hutchinson, if you could please call the roll.
Ms. Evison,
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge.
Yes.
Ms. Blattner.
Yes.
Mr. Jerby.
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
Ms. Colovitz.
Yes. And we have one action item on the agenda for the approval of Vision 2026 work plan priorities for the 2025-2026 school year. Dr. Schuler, if you could please introduce this topic.
Yes, at your July meeting, members of senior leadership team went through and highlighted really the major elements out of your proposed work plans for the coming year. Just a quick recap. The strategic plan you've helped us to create within the district really has three critical anchors. Has a visioning component, that's our portrait of a graduate, right, mission statement. It has a set of key performance indicators or metrics. That's your dashboard, your indicators. Those are key data points that we monitor every year to evaluate performance, continue to set goals. And then the third component are the strategies or the work plans. And at the beginning of the strategic plan, we forecasted kind of the major areas of work, but every year we go through a process with the Board of Education of establishing the work priorities for this year. They are typically aligned within that, but there was one question I think we spent a little bit of time on, or at least I think Angela asked at the last meeting, right? It's very difficult to predict at the beginning of a 4-year strategic plan exactly what 4 years is going to look like. So one item in particular that we had outlined in the plan at the beginning was work around blended learning courses. Pandemic, world events kind of shifted the landscape on that, and that has not been as prominent of a focus in our plan as we had perhaps thought it was going to be at the beginning. And so you haven't seen a lot of annual work plan strategies tied to that. So again, just kind of forecasted, I think. We kind of heard any of the feedback that came in. I think Eric offered one suggestion, which I think is a good one, to make sure that we build into our work plan for this year just the development of a new strategic plan. At the end of this school year, we will come to the end of this 4-year strategic plan. And so we are going to have to spend some time, especially in the latter half of this year, kind of working through a new process. It's something that I'd like to work both with the board, obviously our administrative team, work with some of our advisory committees within the district to kind of talk through or think through a process for rollover the plan. But I think just acknowledging that's going to be a part of our workflow for this year is something that's important we need to do. Other than that, I don't have anything new other than what was already included in your dashboard. It's not a formal requirement that you approve the work plans every year, but we ask you to do it just so that there's complete clarity around what it is that we're working on should any questions come up during the year.
Board members, any other questions or comments?
Obviously the focus here has really been on the work plan under the strategies, but since the indicators are how we measure our performance, I had a somewhat related question and concern on indicators. We've talked in the past about with the state testing change from SAT to ACT, some of the challenges that posed. And I did see that the dashboard is updated to reflect the pause in the PSAT to SAT growth indicator. That concerns me a bit because we constantly have this challenge with showing progress across a broader continuum of time. And I know it's somewhat out of our control. It's a state decision. But I also understand there are ways to do some equalization or normalization of SAT versus ACT scores. And so I guess I would challenge us to look for whether, even if it's not for the formal indicator, just as a board reference point, if we're able to do that and make sure through this testing change that we're continuing to measure progress.
I think, Eric, it's a good question. You will have a growth metric this year at the high school. So the state is introducing a growth metric tied to ACT for the first time this year. So I think you are going to be able to have a piece of data this fall to look at that item.
Will the state growth metric be such that the category, I mean, you may not know this yet, the categories are proficient, excels. I'm only asking that because with the change in the state
cut scores.
Yes. Like, will that?
Yep. So Angela and Melissa, if I'm wrong, correct me quickly in this, but really two different things. So those cut scores really speak to proficiency, right? So when our students take state tests, they get 2 scores every year. They get a proficiency score. That's are you performing as expected? You get a growth score. Your growth score is really just based on how much did your scale score grow relative to everybody else that took that test and started at the same place that you did. And so that really those proficiency elements, in other words, the categories of performance, don't actually tie to the growth. The growth is just simply showing where did your scale score grow year over year compared to everybody else.
Thank you for that reminder. Yes, because we don't have an indicator for actual score, like actual proficiency. Well, we do, but we combine it with other
Correct. You're talking about
metrics,
the high school?
possibilities. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So so with the
So
fair.
the ACT, we just look at growth with that particular tool. When we talk proficiency, we have other things that can
So when
qualify as
we
proficient.
talk proficiency at the high school, you have a definition for what would demonstrate proficiency in English language arts and in math. There are multiple pathways at the high school that a student can demonstrate proficiency. They can do it through a test score, right, through hitting a certain mark on a test. They can do it through completion of an early college course with a successful grade. They can do it in math through successful completion of a particular math course that's deemed to be a proficiency course, or they could do it through the new transitional courses that we introduced, that we did in partnership with College of DuPage, where if a student takes that their senior year and is successful in transitional English or transitional math, they are ready to go directly into credit-bearing college work. So we have multiple definitions at the high school. That's a little different than at the, really it's the 3-8 level where we don't have kind of those multiple pathways. There's really just a test score that determines proficiency.
Thank you.
And then is my understanding correct that with this test change, the ISA will cease to be administered?
The what?
The Illinois, don't we do the science assessment at the 8th grade level?
No, it still will be there.
Still will be, okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, in 5th grade and in 8th grade, and then the science portion of the ACT will be used.
So I don't think when you see this year, thank you, that was one other thing I had on my my list that you brought. Those cut scores are changing this year. That there's been a fair amount of press on that just in the last 24 hours, that those proficiency cut scores are changing. That change in proficiency cut scores, though, isn't going to impact the growth metrics. That actually doesn't change at all. It's because it's evaluated exactly the same way.
The only comment I wanted to make is in looking through the work plans for next year, I noticed so many ideas that we've talked about throughout the year incorporated into those. Looking at grading policies was one. A focus on math we've talked about was another idea incorporated into the work plans. Focus on special ed, and then from our screen time discussion on the 1-to-1 Chromebook, I saw that incorporated as well. So the work of the board is a slow moving, because if we made a decision and things changed next week to try and change everything at all of our buildings and all of our staff, would be chaos. But I just appreciate, given the time that elapses, that we can kind of recap some of those ideas that we talk about at the board table that are incorporated in there. So thank you. All right. If nothing else, then I need a motion and a second to approve the Vision 2026 work plan priorities for 2025-26 as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Jerpy,
Second.
second by Mr. Long, and Ms. Hutchinson, if you could please do the roll.
Mr. Jerpy?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Ms. Blattner?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes. And next up is our oral report. Our one oral report on the agenda is for Vision 2026 Special Education Work Plan. So Dr. Schuler, if you could please introduce
Actually,
this.
Mrs. Murphy is going to introduce this one.
Alexis is the Executive Director for Special Education, and she is going to be presenting tonight a summary of what we brought to you last year at the Committee of the Whole meeting about the stakeholder engagement feedback that we received, progress on that work, and then what's specifically in the work plan this year to address what we had heard from our stakeholder group. So, Alexis.
Thank you. Excited to have the opportunity to share some of the progress that we're making since coming to you in October, as Melissa said, to talk through what we heard from our stakeholder engagement feedback sessions. For the time that we have together today, I wanted to be able to ground us in reminding everybody where we were at with what our stakeholder engagement surveys and listening sessions had shared as our top trends and our priorities, as well as to reacquaint ourselves with some of the work that we identified to start for the 24-25 school year, and then really looking at how we've prioritized some of the future items that were shared with us from our stakeholders into the work plan for this upcoming school year. So this is a chart that you have seen before. After we had stepped through all of the listening sessions and our surveys with all of our stakeholder groups, we were analyzing all of that information to look for trends across the board. And so really you can see in many of the areas we had trends across both parents and staff. Feeling that there is a need for us to increase and improve our communication and collaboration, really looking at how can we provide additional training and professional learning to all staff to support students, making sure that we're thinking about inclusion opportunities for students within the classroom, as well as planning our staffing to provide those inclusion opportunities. And then really was a conversation and ongoing conversations about addressing the aid shortage that we have. And then in the other areas where you don't see alignment, I kind of look at this as everyone comes to the table with the perspective that they have. Parents really want to make sure that they are heard at that IEP table and are able to participate in that process. And our staff members are definitely thinking about the way that their time is utilized, what their workload looks like, and the instructional materials that we're utilizing to help support students. So I think that's where you see just a difference in those perspectives. So we took that information, and then on our dashboard at the time, there was already items that we knew that was work that we were going to be stepping into for last school year. So if you look at the items on the left under the instructional program work, those were the items that had already been decided to have on our work plan, where we knew we wanted to really dig into the elementary resource. So all of our elementary schools, looking at how special education services are delivered to all students, and then also really starting to dig in and analyze our instructional program called PISA, which is a program that's meant to support students who are significantly behind academically, and then also making sure that we're looking into intervention resources to support our students. We also, in looking at electives, wanted to make sure that we're highlighting more inclusive opportunities for our students in our essentials program, specifically at the middle school. And then with the implementation or the recent implementation of bookworms as a core instructional material for general education students, we knew that we would also need to be supporting how we can enhance that core through differentiation in reading instruction for students in the classroom. And then from the feedback that we heard from staff, we also added for the 24-25 school year the fact that we wanted to start engaging in conversations about transitions across building levels. So really looking at as students bridge from early childhood to kindergarten, from 5th to 6th grade, and then from 8th to 9th grade. How are we supporting that process through our IEP process and our discourse with staff through that articulation? And then we also knew that professional learning came out as an area that we needed to address. And so we wanted to have a focus of how could we start to provide opportunities for all staff to really increase professional learning on special education topics. And then not only do we serve students within the district at their home schools, some of our students access instructional programs that are not at their home schools, and some of our students access out-of-district programming. All of those students are 200 students, and so we really wanted to make sure that we're increasing our school and community engagement with those students and families. And then if you remember, there was a couple other slides with future priorities that came from that stakeholder engagement session and feedback. And so really I just kind of clumped them here into specific headings. Again, we knew that expanding the professional learning opportunities is going to have to go beyond the 24-25 school year. That's something that we're going to continue to have to work towards. We also are going to continue to review our staffing and the workloads that we have placed on our staff members to make sure we're allocating our FTE appropriately. When we talk about that professional learning, a core component of that was also how are we ensuring that our staff members are getting IEP training, so that we're really making sure that we're in compliance. And then if you kind of go over to the right, when we look at communication, we know that we wanted to build in a structure for how we are communicating with the department directly, specifically for myself and the directors. How are we getting that communication out to everyone is an area for future focus. As well as we have many students who are not only identified as special education students, but also are identified as multilingual learners. And so we need to be able to increase that partnership to make sure we're putting everything in place for those students as well. When we go into the bottom left quadrant, we're looking at that family and community engagement. We recognize that parents really loved the opportunity to participate in the listening sessions, which we heard loud and clear that it would be a really great idea to form a parent advisory council for special education parents. And then again, really highlighting the opportunity to be transparent with our community about the instructional programs that we offer within the district. And then over on that right-hand side, looking at our program and process improvements. Again, like I said, we started to dig into that transitioning between the levels of early childhood to kindergarten, 5th to 6th, and 8th to 9th. That's not something that can be done in a year. That's going to have to be something we wanted to have time to continue to refine. And then when we talked about our instructional programs, we thought something that would be helpful for clarification would be to create some program guides that would help explain the profile of student that would be most successful within the individual programs, so that staff members and our community members were aware of the purpose of those instructional programs. And then we also heard that it would be helpful if we improve some of the things that sit on the website underneath the special education tab. So those are other areas that were identified for future years. And so we really need to analyze and think about, our team came together to think about, well, what from this list do we want to put together for the 25-26 school year, and then what's going to go beyond. But before I get into that, I think it's important to highlight that we have made progress on the goals that we've identified. Since we shared the information with the board, we have been busy working on these different items. So if you look at the instructional improvements, we had the opportunity again to create a resource committee. So that is a variety of staff members, whether they're special education teachers, general education teachers, specialists, and administrators, to come together to really look at that instructional delivery model for resource teachers. But we also spent some time increasing their professional learning through that. So when you see there was a Bookworms Enhanced training for all staff on January 6th, our resource committee members took part of that learning as well. And then on January 30th, we also made sure that they were a part of the professional learning on universal design for learning as it pertains to our core math curriculum. So really, again, highlighting the fact that we know we need to be increasing our professional learning for staff. We were also excited to start providing professional learning to general education staff as well. And so at the February 28th Institute Day, we were able to provide professional learning to our kindergarten through 2nd grade teachers, focusing on topics of regulation for students within the classroom, and then also looking at executive functioning skills to help support students in that general education environment. And so that was our first opportunity to start providing that professional learning district-wide, and we've now identified a cadence for how we're going to do that at each level continuing into the next school year. Under family and community engagement, I had the opportunity, I was invited by the PTA to come to them to talk about special education topics. We highlighted a little bit about the stakeholder engagement session, but really we also talked about how can the PTA help support accessibility for students with special needs in their events. And was able to provide them with a pamphlet or a brochure that really outlined some of the things that we should think about proactively in our planning to make sure that that event is inclusive and all students are able to access it, rather than kind of trying to retroactively think about how students can manage that space. And so that was a great opportunity. We also heard from the board after we presented at the committee of the whole that it was a priority for the board. We got that Special Education Parent Advisory Council up and running. So I'm happy to share that we have had 2 meetings of our Special Education Parent Advisory Council last year. All of the families that participated came from the work that they did during the stakeholder engagement listening sessions. And so sent out a survey to see who would want to be invited. 100% everybody wanted to participate. So that was very exciting to get that off of the ground. We also had our very first out-of-district picture day. So in some of the feedback that we received, we uncovered that some of our families haven't had a school picture of their child since they were placed in a therapeutic day school or a setting that sits outside of the district. And so we thought, well, what a great opportunity for us to offer for families to come in and have their students get their picture taken. And so we were really thankful to Principal Pilkington over at Hubble to allow us to use Hubble as a site. And we had many families sign up, and the sessions were wonderful. It was such a heartwarming experience because they were able to get that perfect picture. There was no rush. The kids could take their time. They had their family members there and any other support that they needed through a social story or some of their favorite things. And so we were happy to be able to offer that, and we'll continue to offer it. And then looking at the systems and operations, as I had mentioned, since we were digging into resource at the elementary level, we were able to get that committee off of the ground, up and running. I have reminded all of the people that signed up for the committee that they signed up for 2 years, and they all have agreed and are happy to continue that work as we step into this year. As I mentioned, continuing to work on that bridge meeting process as we move through levels. And then we've got that regular cadence for our professional learning. So for a short amount of time, there's a lot of things that we've started to really make progress on, but our work is nowhere near done. So I'm going to move into what our focus is going to be as we step into the upcoming school year. So when we looked and analyzed the things that we thought were the top priority from all of our future priorities, we landed on these 4 areas for our continued focus for the work plan of our department. So the first one is, again, we have to continue that to engage in the program review of the elementary resource support that's provided to students. And we know that that also will lend itself to naturally starting to analyze and look at our PISA instructional program. And so that's going to continue to be a focus for our group as we step into this year. The other area is, again, we need to continue to expand the professional learning opportunities for our staff. So not only making sure that we're getting the general education staff through that cyclical process on our institute days, we also are looking to increase the professional learning that we provide to our special education teachers by increasing the frequency of their department meetings and making sure that we're continuing to build their capacity and their knowledge as well to best support students. When we talked about the program guides was something that came up in terms of our instructional programs. We really think it's important to provide some clarity and transparency to staff and to families about the type of learners that are best supported in each of our different instructional programs. It's hard when you see an acronym on paper to truly understand what that program means and what it looks like. And so the directors are going to be working very closely with staff to build those instructional program guides. And we will have that as an outward-facing document on our website as well so that the community can see that. And then we also want to conduct a comprehensive study on staffing, really just looking at making sure that we're allocating our FTEs in the place that we need to allocate it so that we're best meeting the needs of the students in their IEPs. That's special education teachers, related service providers, and teaching assistants. We really want to make sure that we're optimizing the staffing patterns that we currently have to make sure the kids are getting what they need. And because that's not enough to work on, we also are always going to have a focus on IEP compliance. So it's something that is different for special education is there are many legal components to the work that we do, and we need to make sure that we are definitely in compliance with all of those regulations. Being in compliance helps support a very quality document, which then makes sure that students are at the center of the work that we're providing, and we want to make sure that we're building the capacity of our staff to continue to strengthen their knowledge in order to make sure that we continue to be compliant through the work that we do. And that's all I have.
Board members, any questions or comments for Alexis?
I have four. First one, just should I assume that anywhere I saw reference to IEP in the deck, whether it was the resource allocation, compliance, et cetera, that 504 is also being looked at alongside that?
So 504 is different than the IEP component. So really right now, what we've been focusing on is the IEP portion of it for our staff when we're looking at those allocations. It's just a little bit different in terms of like the legality component.
Okay, I guess just because, there's legal requirements behind both. Is there an intention of eventually getting to the same for 504? Or is there a thought that we don't need the same level of rigor there?
No, we do, but to be really honest with you, the state is also supposed to be coming out with some new regulations for Section 504 that we've been waiting on for quite a bit of time, and so that would be most helpful to be able to help strengthen us moving forward.
And then with regard to the resource allocation work, it would be helpful to understand, are you looking at in terms of with your existing FTEs, how you allocate them? Or is it more of an unconstrained look where we may at some point get an ask as a board for incremental FTEs?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that it could be twofold. I really want to uncover and also look at our comparable districts to really help us understand our staffing patterns and how we're supporting students in comparison to them. It could be that we have the staffing that we need and we just need to shift it. I don't know what will come of it.
Okay. I would just encourage you not to assume that it has to be a zero-sum game. I mean, if we truly have gaps, whether, based on our internal needs assessment or that benchmarking, we'd like to understand that.
Okay.
Third, you referenced school and community engagement. What does that look like for outplay students? Like, help me understand what that could include.
Yeah, I think that one huge piece of it is, again, even though students might attend a placement that doesn't sit within 200, they are still 200 students. So how are we encouraging to have reach out with the home school to still be invited to some of the events that take place or extracurriculars, just so that they still have that connection to the district?
Okay. And the last item, just passing along from a community member who's actually on the Citizens Advisory Committee, a suggestion that really resonated with me. They made reference to the fact that often, the special ed families don't necessarily know how to navigate the system. And the suggestion was twofold. It was some sort of special ed 101 for families, which may already exist and people just aren't aware of. But if not, it was thought that that could be beneficial. And then related to that, there's a specific recommendation that just as we stood up the who to contact guide, kind of for general school topics, concern, and what's your first, second, third, fourth line of contact, there was a thought that a kind of special ed flavored version of that for the concerns that frequently come up to families of special ed students could be noteworthy. And you mentioned putting the program guides under the special ed tab. It seems like something like that could be a valuable resource there. So just passing it along as food for thought.
No, those are great ideas. Thank you for sharing them.
First thing you said you had two of the committee meetings last year?
For the Special Education Parent Advisory Council,
yes.
yes.
The advisory council. And what was the, I guess, maybe just the highlights is the best way to ask it.
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time developing like our mission and vision for what we want the Special Education Parent Advisory Council to be. And so we engaged in a lot of activities where we could come to the table and develop that statement. So it did span 2 meetings to work through that. But then also we had the opportunity to have some of the directors come to the meeting to also do some professional learning. So Val DeFresco, who was just here, came and she had talked about some additional services that can be provided to students that qualify for those services to provide some just parental knowledge. And then Megan Barres, one of my other directors of secondary, came and was talking through the transition process for students as they navigate that 5th to 6th grade transition. So really trying to find the opportunities there in that space to not only share knowledge as we're also receiving feedback from parents.
And then, so then the outcome of that, I'm guessing, set the foundation for how the meetings will be structured and what you'll address this year?
Yeah, we also sent out a survey to them to also understand what some different additional professional learning knowledge they would like to receive. And so we're utilizing that. That's kind of how we got Megan there for that transition conversation. So we will use that to help guide.
And how often is that committee meeting?
I have quarterly.
Quarterly? Okay. The next question I have is on the address the aid shortage that was on both. What kind of came of that? Or like, is that part of when you talk about resource allocation on one of these? So, yeah, on the work plans for 25, 26. Anyway, with that aid shortage, what kind of came of that?
So I think when we start to conduct that comprehensive study, the teaching assistant piece needs to be a component of that conversation as well. We haven't dug into that work as a department quite yet.
Okay, and then my last question is the increased parent engagement in the IEP process. How is that being addressed?
So when we step through our compliance training, a big piece of that is going to be the conversation about what that parent engagement looks like and how to help facilitate the conversation so that they feel like they're a part of that dialogue and discussion back and forth. So I would say it's coming through professional learning to staff right now.
And there's stated requirements, is that right? And how in the compliance part of that?
Yes.
And so, okay, because I know the reason, in our coffee with the board, we've had a number of people that show up from that community, and I realize it's a very sensitive topic and it's very personal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot different from family to family. So it's helpful just to understand from your perspective. So thank you.
Thank you. A couple questions. Just want to clarify. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but when you talk about the cadence of professional learning, that will always include a component of general ed teachers?
Yeah, so actually on the countywide day in February, we're always going to provide topics on special education topics to general education teachers at the elementary level. And then stepping into this upcoming school year in September, we're going to be presenting at Wheaton North as well as all of our middle schools. And then South is going to be in November on that Institute Day. So we have like a regular cadence for us to get those special education topics to general education staff.
Okay, great, thank you. And along that topic of professional learning, professional development, have we ever considered having available to our staff the opportunity to collaborate with our neighboring districts, and work together? Because I feel like sometimes we might be recreating the wheel. Like some districts have have other ideas about how they're doing something might work better. Like I just feel like that group of staff doesn't have much, and I could be wrong, collaboration with other professionals outside of our district.
That's a good question. We haven't yet dug into other districts. Right now, for countywide specifically, we've been looking at presenters to come in to build that professional learning knowledge, so it's not just coming from people within the district.
Okay,
but it's a point for us to look into. It
could be helpful. In my real job, I transition kids into districts, and several districts, not just District 200. It's fascinating to me how differently things are done and how some things are done better than others. And I think if there was more collaboration, inter-community wide, there could be better outcomes across the board. I think we do a lot of things well here in District 200, but I might be biased. But there may be things and ideas that we could get, especially I think that the special ed staff, as much support as they can get. And if we have limits here, we could look to neighboring communities. Anyway, question, I'm not sure where this falls here, but how does the decision to outplace, are there specific structured guidelines that drive an outplacement?
So those are individual IEP conversations and IEP team decisions based upon data.
Okay, so there's no specific flow chart of how you would get to that point. Okay. So then is there anything about how to come back?
So in special education, there's a continuum of services, and it always goes from the least restrictive environment to the most restrictive environment. And so we're always wanting to make sure that our kids are accessing their personal least restrictive environment. So as we are obligated on an annual basis at a minimum to always be coming together to the table to look at the progress that students are making on their IEP goals, and then adjusting what it is those educational services or placement needs to be. And so that IEP team has the obligation to do that minimally on an annual basis.
Okay.
And so that would be the vehicle to drive if teams were making a decision to increase support or decrease support.
And that's always reviewed annually at every individual meeting. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Last question. So our IEP meetings in our district, are they mostly in person or are there some virtual?
That's a good question. I feel like I've seen it's a mix, and ultimately we give parental preference based upon their schedule and what they would like. So we do have in-person meetings. We do have meetings where the parent wants to attend virtually, but the team might be in person. And then there could be the time where the full team came together virtually. There's no set way that it has to be. We really are trying to work with our families to be flexible because we know everyone's schedule.
So is the default to have in person?
That's the preferred.
Like, is that the offer? And then
Yes.
Negotiate. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question on the parent advisory councils. It's great that there was 100% interest when you reached out. How are we creating space for, each year there's new families added to the district for new families to participate? Is there kind of like a rotation schedule, or how does that work?
It's a great question. So actually we had put out the survey to see if there was interest in adding people to the special education parental council. And so really I'm starting to look through that. The main goal that I have is that there's representation from all buildings and levels and programming. And then also making sure that that is a manageable size committee so that we can get work done.
I just have a comment. I appreciate the work that you've done already, and specifically wanted to call out, I'm impressed with the picture day that you guys put together, because it seemed like you got feedback about an issue that was very easily solved. And, without much fanfare, you just rolled up your sleeves and you decided to fix it. So I would encourage you to continue to look for those small ways to improve connectivity and inclusion with our special ed families. I think that's a great way to, make the community feel like they're being heard and kind of listening to them and their feedback. So thank you for doing that.
A couple of things. You mentioned a 2-year term. Is that for the Parent Advisory Committee?
So I'll be honest, we haven't set a term for any of
Okay.
that quite yet. The main goal was to get the Special Education Parent Advisory Council up and running and then work to tweak it from there. So right now, trying to make space so that we can get others on the committee, but the other component of how long they would sit on has not been discussed
You
at this
mentioned a
point.
2-year term, and I wasn't sure what that applied to at some point. But
Sorry,
there
I don't-
needs to be
The
ability
resource
to bring new
committee.
people
It was
in.
for the resource
The
committee.
resource committee.
Okay,
The work that we needed to do, given that we got up and running in the
Great,
middle of the year,
thank you.
needed to come into this year.
And in a couple of facets of my day job, I have encountered situations where compliance meant that you complied with the rules and the regulations and the law, and it didn't necessarily mean you knew what you were doing. And I will cite appraisal as one example of that. You can comply with the appraisal rules and not have a clue about doing appraisals. And I'm wondering if there's any kind of a discrepancy between when you say compliance versus getting the job done for the kids.
I think really everyone always operates with the best intention for students. I think that we should constantly be reviewing our practices and our procedures, because ultimately the state changes those regulations at times, and we need to make sure we have the most up-to-date information to do that work well. I think that staff need that information not just in writing. They need to be able to have a discussion and a dialogue in scenarios to be able to take that information and apply it. And so that's something that we're focusing on doing with our staff to make sure that they can do it and do it well.
Yeah, well, that's the key thing. You got to comply with the rules, but also we want to get the job done. So thank you.
All right. Anything else? All right, then we have one discussion item on the agenda. It is CAC and Advisory Committee agenda topics. Dr. Schuler, if you could please introduce this.
Thank you. So I really set it up, I think, in the introduction of this item in your board packet. Citizens Advisory Committee is a committee that the board authorized through charter, I think, going back 8 or 9 years ago now. Part of the bylaws indicate that agenda items for the year either can come from the committee itself or from the board or administration with topics we wish to have that committee study. Last year, example of that is you asked that committee to look at cell phone device policies. And so we did spend a fair amount of time with that committee exploring that topic and some change that we ultimately brought forward. Obviously, this year we added the 3 new advisory committees. In the advisory committee that's going to focus on safety and the student experience or student wellness, committee that's going to focus on technology education, especially as it applies to parents and community, and a third committee that's going to focus on our career-connected learning with Mrs. Murphy, how we're expanding some of our workplace learning opportunities, internship programs. We think there's a robust opportunity for engagement. So those groups are forming, have not yet met for the first time, but our members of our leadership team are pulling those groups together, but happy to entertain from the board just any feedback you have on things you'd like for us to consider with any of those groups. And this isn't a one-time discussion, as I think Mrs. Kulovitz mentioned. Obviously, if something comes up later in the year, by all means, we can still consider it, but we just want to make sure anything that sits as high interest for the board, we know that moving into the year.
I have a couple. For the safety committee, you know, we hear a lot about safety from time to time, but I'd be interested from that committee, which is going to probably be a little broader than maybe some factions that we hear from. I'd like to know what their largest areas of concern are. You know, because I don't know, from the work I've seen and what I know and what Matt and Joe Kish have been part of, I think we do a really good job. We're only one bad thing from happening that means we have no credibility, and I know that keeps you up at night. So I feel good about what we do with that, but I want to know what is really more common than maybe. I don't want to call it a one-off concern. I don't want to call anybody's concern, dismiss anybody's concerns, but we hear about certain things. So I'd like to know that. And then on the technology committee, as the year goes on, I'd be interested in their feedback on the implementation of the changes we made with devices and that. And the last thing on pathways, kind of similar to on school safety, what are perceived maybe, and gaps might not be the right word. What else are they looking for? And that could be within our district, you know, within what we do programs, what other programs they want to see, as well as you know, the TCD, right? So that's what I had.
Three items. The first one, there was a topic the CAC had reviewed probably more than several years back now. It was the school start times and possible switch for high school level. Obviously, we had some neighboring communities that are actively exploring that shift. I'm just wondering if it's time that we maybe dust off as a light topic our community's perceptions of school start times and talk a little bit about the complexities and costs of accommodating that. Second one would be at maybe the intersection of career-connected learning and the advising process. Those of us who had attended the relevant DuPage division meeting had seen a little bit in terms of helping families to understand kind of the return on investment of certain career paths when it comes to living wage. And I think maybe there's an opportunity to get some insights from our community, especially parents, as to what presentation of information would be helpful to them and their students as we try to help students find that match between a career path that they have a skill set and a passion for and a career path that will pay them that living wage. And then the third one is, I think, community input before we maybe dust off portrait of a graduate would be helpful. I know I'm experiencing in my professional day job some surprising evolution of the labor market, job opportunities, certain jobs being replaced by AI at a quicker pace than maybe ever anticipated. And as I look at our current portrait of a graduate, I worry that it's perhaps becoming a little bit stale. And so getting a wide insight from community members who have very different professional backgrounds, I think could be useful.
I have two things. One, I think the topic of AI needs to be a continuing conversation, just based on the fact that it's evolving so quickly, and it seems like every week there's a new AI thing that comes out. So I'd like to see that being given a lot of treatment in the either CAC or the technology committee, both in educating our community and parents on the use of AI, but also, what we should be looking at in how to use AI for our students. And then two, for the career pathways, I'd like to know, what jobs, not what jobs necessarily are important right now, but what jobs are going to be important in 4 years. Again, similarly, there's a lot of evolution happening. And I'd also like to hear from the students if there are any career pathways that they think may be missing, like, oh, I, really want to learn the trades, or I really want to learn XYZ. If we can sort of loop our students in to see where where we can improve on those career pathways.
I just want to echo Eric's idea of the career pathways and the linking it to the why of why it matters of, helping students navigate college with a lower debt load. I think that's really impactful and a message I don't know has been translated yet to the parent community. And the other ideas I had are just with the career pathways group, using them to brainstorm how we can leverage our community partners for those internships for students. And then another idea is I would love our community input on how we can best share our story and our message with our community, specifically on, the topic of safety, that it's such a dense topic, and we'll talk about it at a meeting and then a few months later at another meeting and do really intensive deep dives. But the reality is the average community member is not sitting through these meetings. And so how can we best communicate, and what is the format, what is the message that they most want to hear?
Katie and Julie's comments made me think of something maybe more broadly as we look at any or all of these ideas, is the idea of student voice, whether it's safety, whether it is like the career pathways, trying to take some of our community committees that traditionally haven't involved students. CAC, students are not represented there. I mean, that's part of why we have dedicated student advisors, but on a topical basis, trying to make sure we include that student voice. And so if that's leveraging our ambassadors, as we did last year, to dive deep into certain topics, I just think that's a helpful thing to incorporate.
In terms of safety, the safety committee, I think at some level, CAC or the safety committee, there should be some conversation around bullying and having that discussion, like having people talk about it and maybe have some more uniformity across our buildings, or lead to that as to how it's dealt with. I think I hear a lot, consistently. And yeah, we don't talk about it a lot. So I think that would be great. Love Katie's idea of continuing that ongoing discussion about AI, because everything's going to change so rapidly. So we need to keep on top of that. And then to the point of career pathways, I want to make sure we include in that because everything is going to so rapidly change, like we want to make sure that above anything else, like our students have a strong academic foundation so that if they are educated, they can be trained. Like not necessarily have to go like one way or the other. You need to have that strong foundation. That's all. Thanks.
All right, anything else? All right, then we'll move on to our Board Facilities Committee meeting. They met on August 6, 2025, and the meeting notes are attached. Mr. Long, I know you gave a report earlier. Is there anything else you have to add?
Just a couple quick points, because I touched on the summer 2026 middle school. Just a reminder, the final bid package, we're going to come out to September board meeting, right? Oh, I have that wrong.
The bids will be released to the public for issuance 3, which is summer of 26 and summer of 27, late October.
Okay.
Those bids will be due around the 3rd week of November, and then we'll bring all the recommendations to the board in
All
December.
right. Well, yeah, thanks for clarifying it. But I just want to point out we're kind of wrapping up the planning of the last 2 years of that. And then we did spend a fair amount of time on high school athletics. 2 things. Both football fields are going to need to be recarpeted. And so we're talking about various timelines and how to do that. I mean, it's important that we do it because there's like a infrastructure that is in good shape from the last time, so it's not nearly as costly. But then we talked about the concept of perhaps looking at using turf in other parts of the athletic fields, and so the suggestion was made to do an exploration of kind of a site plan for our outdoor fields, and so we do. I think that's something we do want to consider because there's some real benefits there. There's some cost benefits. There's a number of benefits. So just wanted to make the board aware of those things. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other reports from board members?
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have had the opportunity over the past week to have set foot in Monroe, seen some of the work there. Really, you can see it in presentations. It's not the same as being there in person and seeing it come to life. I was in Wheaton North. Obviously, the work less dramatic there, but still, it's nice to see us investing on a continual basis in our facilities. And then this evening, got to see a lot of people enjoying the Wiesbrook playground. Obviously, the teachers and the families are what really makes education happen, but it is striking how some of the facility enhancements can certainly make the learning environment more positive. And then in some of the classrooms, being able to see that, functionally they will be more usable and have a more direct impact on education is fantastic. So just exciting to start seeing this come to life.
I was in Wiesbrook as well as Lowell this afternoon, and if there's some way we could capture the energy, we could power the whole county, I think. It's just really great to see all the activity with the kids, the parents, the engagement. Really, really encouraging.
I just concur on that. Having been in Wiesbrook this evening, those just the new flooring and the new lighting, it really brought a lot of life to the building. So I appreciate those investments. All right, we have 3 written reports provided to the board: the monthly financial reports, the FOIA report, and the board communication log. And there's 2 topics for future discussion: FY26 final budget and the middle school capital projects update. Board, are there any additional topics board members want considered in the future?
I would like us to talk about getting a board improvement session scheduled with our ISB rep again. I think it's just good board hygiene, and with a new board member, getting that process going sooner rather than later, I think is positive.
Yes, agreed. And I think we are in the process of that.
And I have one, and that's on the this concept of sponsorships. I've seen a little bit on some districts going kind of do a formal sponsorship thing, and I know we do some sponsoring. There's some signage on the fences around the football fields. Not an immediate need, but just something I think we should have on our radar to philosophically how we might want to address that. I'm not advocating, it piqued my curiosity, and I think it's something we should look at.
I think technically we are supposed to approve the sponsors that signage. I think in our policy when we went through the review that technically the board approves that.
When just with these recommendations for topics of future discussion coming out of our last board self-improvement process, we had said we were going to bring more robustness and transparency kind of to this parking lot, because it feels like we bring up a lot of these topics for future discussion, but don't necessarily have clarity to what all that is. And so
I think, Eric, if I apologize if that's not been clear. We've been tracking that on a chart. So I think every item the board brought up last year, I shared that with the board, exactly what it was and where we took that item. So just for clarity on the board, anytime something comes up through this, Rob, Julie, and I review it at our next session. We meet every time after a board meeting and ultimately make the decision if it's something that needs to be considered for a committee of the whole agenda, if there's a committee that it needs to go to initially for discussion, or if for whatever reason there's a valid reason why it's not going anywhere. So we haven't lost any of it. We track it on a sheet that you have access to anytime you want, just to know exactly what we're
Okay,
doing
that's
with them. But
fantastic.
happy
I obviously
to.
missed that. If it would be possible
Okay.
to recirculate to us
happy
the
to.
location, that would be great.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, board, our next regular meeting will be on September 10th, 2025 at 7 o'clock, right next door at Whittier Elementary School. And the next coffee with the board will be on Saturday, September 13th at 9 o'clock here at the School Service Center. And our next committee of the whole meeting will be on September 24th at 7 o'clock, again at the School Service Center. If there's no further action to come before the board in open session, I need a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Long,
Second.
second by Ms. Ebbison. All those in favor say aye.
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 The meeting is adjourned.